Don't move to Phoenix, they say. Are they right? In this video, I'm going to talk about the top reasons why moving to Phoenix is a bad idea. Stay tuned. Welcome back to another video. I'm here just north of Uptown Phoenix. A little backdrop with some palm trees in the mountains, even though there's some gray stuff there, which I'm not sure what that is. Let's jump into today's video, the top reasons not to move to Phoenix. Number one is the heat. It's one of the reasons that people move here is the nice sun in the backdrop, not like today, but it can get very hot in the summer months especially. So a lot of people end up moving or getting away for long weekends just to get out of the heat. For about May through August or so, September, it can get really hot where it doesn't really seem to dip below 100 degrees. So it also drives up the air conditioning costs, the cooling to stay inside. A lot of times if you're trying to avoid the heat, you can't really go hiking and all these other things. I'll mention that as well, but you really have to plan around the heat, and you can't be trapped in the heat because you can get dehydrated. You can really be catastrophic if you get caught in the desert and you're without water, and it's not a good idea. But it's really hot, and it does drive people away in the summer, so that's one thing to consider. Another reason not to move to Phoenix: snakes, scorpions, cockroaches, all kinds of different critters that you don't see in other parts of the country. It's not super common, unless you can get, sometimes they might take over your home a little bit, like maybe a vacant home, or there's different examples, and there's different pockets of Phoenix where you'll see this more. And also the snake problem. Not really a problem unless you're, say, hiking and you're off the beaten track or the beaten trail. They usually try to stay away from things. Maybe if you're exploring more and you're uncovering a rock, you have to be very careful. So just be smart, and it's not something that would probably hasn't kept me away because I moved here, but it's just something to be aware of. Another reason is hiking. Everyone wants to go hiking. You have to go for a hike. And for me, I actually kind of like it. So it's one of the reasons I moved here, but some people really hate it. They get really tired of people always wanting to do the same thing. And there's beautiful hiking trails here, but not everyone likes that. And sometimes it gets annoying. There's bike trails for taking your bikes out in the mountains as well. But if you don't like hiking, probably don't want to move to Phoenix. The rising home costs. It's getting to be really difficult in some areas, depending on your income level and your household income, to get into a home. But then you have the great debate of renting versus buying. So which one's better? I have opinions on that as well, of course, but I'll share that in a later video. But it wasn't uncommon for certain areas like Gilbert, I think, was up 42-3% or something like that last year. And there was some of the other areas very similar. Of course, it's tapered off a little bit now as interest rates have started to go up a lot. It's really stabilizing the home prices, but you compare that to, say, California, and you could probably double the cost of a home in California, which is bringing a lot of the people here. So it's also driving up the price a little bit, which is causing some challenges in the market for some people to get into those homes that they want. So that is definitely a concern, but there's a lot of great buys out there as well. You just have to be looking for the right opportunities and kind of know the market and work with an excellent realtor, of course. Plus, we have the very spread out metro area of Phoenix. You can go from Surprise up in the northwest corner, or way out there, over to Santan Valley, which is completely across the other side of town. I don't know how many miles that is, but it's a lot. But it also, like, it's not uncommon, or even say Gilbert as an example, going from one area of Gilbert to the other can take you 30-35 minutes just to get across the town of Gilbert. There's a lot of open areas. I remember I came down here visiting, went to dinner. I was visiting family, go across town just to a restaurant. Open fields, just open areas, a lot of vast open space that you don't see in a lot of other areas. And there's also Phoenix is kind of close to Vegas and LA and San Francisco, or not San Francisco, but LA, San Diego, Tucson, and Sedona, and all those cities. But beyond that, there's not a lot of other cities that are just tied into next door to Phoenix. You have to jump in a plane or get in the car and drive. In my eyes, I like the opportunity to be able to take a short flight to San Diego, but there's just really not a lot of other close cities around Phoenix like there are if you get to the East Coast. There's city after city after city, which can be, depends on how you look at it, a pro or a con. We have a little leg room here in Phoenix. Next up, we have something that might be moving in right now as we speak, and I move down the street here a little bit. Haboob. That's the desert definition of a storm. We have the dust storms and all kinds of things that go with that. It's not super uncommon as you drive down an open area to see the swirling desert sand just spinning around in this little funnel, and then everything else is fine. It's a few different times I was driving down the interstate and it was completely fine. All of a sudden it just started to downpour, and then it's like I felt like I was in a cartoon where it's all fine except for one, like my car was the only thing that was raining on. It's very strange down here sometimes, but something to be concerned about, only if it's maybe more during the monsoon season too to be concerned. But I was in IKEA one day when I first moved down here. The alarms went off, it turned kind of dark out, it was really dusty, and it seemed to only last maybe a couple hours too. So I'm not overly concerned about it. It doesn't really change what my lifestyle or what I have going on during the day, unless there's a few exceptions to that, like anything. So something to be aware of when moving to Phoenix. Snowbirds and the senior citizens that move, it could be vacationers. There's very seasonal because the weather becomes so perfect that everyone wants to be here at certain times of the year. And then when it gets super hot, they do want to get out of here and go back to where it's maybe a little bit more reasonable, up, say, in the Midwest. I don't see this as a huge concern in my own experience. There are some things to be aware of, that there's going to be a lot more people here in January than there is in August. Something to plan around, just to make sure you're aware. If you're going out to a restaurant, as an example, that's probably one of the things that you would see the most, making it just harder to get a reservation. But in August, you can get right in. So something to keep in mind when you're thinking about that move to Phoenix. And of course, in Phoenix, as you look around, you see a lot of cactus, a lot of rock, a lot of brown. You don't see, well, there's one thing right there is there's no ocean, there's no water. There's water, but you know what I'm saying? There's no ocean. You have to you can drive to Mexico straight south, which is about 4 or 5 hours, and you get to a small town in Mexico that has the ocean. But you're not going to find it here. You can get to San Diego. They're all, maybe 5 hours drive or 6 hours, or a short plane ride, like I mentioned earlier, to San Diego or LA, and you can see the ocean. But as you look around here, I'm in Piestewa Peak, one of my favorite hiking trails. As we mentioned earlier as well, hiking, if you hate hiking, you're not going to want to move to Phoenix, but that's just one of the things that's pretty common here. And it's just really kind of a strange weather day, but if you like water and you like to be at the beach, Phoenix is not going to be the area for you to move to, but it is also not too bad if you want to plan a longer weekend to get away and just get out of the heat a little bit in the summer, get away from just the brown and the cactus, the dryness here in Phoenix. From Piestewa Peak here in Phoenix, that wraps up today's video on not moving to Phoenix. Some of the reasons that really drive people away or keep them away from Phoenix, but also some things that for you to think about is that a concern for you, or are some of those really not an issue? For me, they're not really an issue. Some of those are actually advantages as well. So it just really depends on what you're looking for. With that, I'm going to end this video on a little bit of some scenic shots of Piesta. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and I'll see you on the next video.